Science affects us all every day of the year. To visualize this, imagine a day without scientific progress. For instance, there would be no electricity, no plastic, no modern medicine, and no modern agriculture. Scientific knowledge improves the quality of life. Without a solid understanding of science and its implications for our daily lives, we can neither respond intelligently on a personal level nor hold public officials accountable for sound policy decisions. Modern biology provides students with the basic scientific and biological principles. Current problems in biology and the ethics of science are presented with perspectives of public policy from a scientific viewpoint. With scientific literacy comes better decision-making capabilities and easier navigation through life's everyday challenges. A good science education is key to productivity and success.
Passive transport is the opposite of active transport. Whereas active transport requires energy to move materials across a cell membrane or a cell wall, passive transport does not require any energy at all. Passive transport is the movement of materials across a cell membrane or a cell wall from a high to low concentration gradient. Going from a high to low concentration gradient is also known as going down the concentration gradient. Sometimes this requires the help of proteins to move through the phospholipid bilayer, which is selectively permeable. This is known as facilitated diffusion. Another example of this kind of diffusion is osmosis, which is a water-specific process.
Passive transport is important because the transport of materials through a membrane is required to sustain a cell. Without these materials, the cell would die. The cell is able to regulate this transport, and passive is the most common due to the membrane not requiring energy to do so. Without the cell's ability to regulate which materials enter the membrane and how they diffuse, the cells would not be able to carry out their functions, which would mean that the cells would not exist without passive transport. Several very important molecules are able to participate in passive transport, such as water and oxygen. These two molecules are essential to life. Without passive transport, the membrane would be unable to control what molecules enter and exit the cells, which would render it unable to maintain homeostasis.
So, how does passive transport affect everybody? Well, it's actually quite simple. Take, for example, osmosis, a common form of passive transport. For a cell to survive, ion concentrations need to be the same on both sides of the cell membrane. If the cell does not remove these extra ions, water is going to move in. This in turn can cause cells to swell up and explode. When red blood cells explode, it is often the result of a disease such as sickle cell anemia. Another result of this rupture is the release of hemoglobin into the bloodstream. The extra proteins that the hemoglobin is made of become a burden on your liver. This will then cause damage to your liver slowly over time, and then it will cause them to not work as well. Therefore, without passive transport, our cells are thrown out of whack, which in turn has negative effects on our bodies.